Hey, it's Dr. Kieran. Happy Friday. We are on question number 9 of your One Thing Hormone Survey. And today we're talking about, could it be adrenal fatigue? That's the question we're answering. And I have a huge announcement that we're going to go over. So let's get started. Still having some acting up on Instagram. Not sure what that is about. I'm actually going to try to switch over to my phone and see if that will work better. It says that they are getting people, but I am going to try to switch it over. I don't know why I keep having this problem with the iPad. Let's see. So we're going to do Q9, and we're talking about, could it be adrenal fatigue? And a big announcement. All right. All right, so I'm going to do it here and see if that works and get off of this one. Okay, it says we are now live on my phone. So, hey, it's Dr. Kieran. Happy Friday. We're on question number 9, and we are talking about, could it be adrenal fatigue or is it menopause? And I've got a big announcement. So I'm just going to switch over off of here on my phone and off the iPad and to the phone. I don't know what is up with the phone. So hopefully this will work. It worked. All right, great. So we are in business. All right. So thank you so much for your questions that I asked about the One Thing Hormone Survey. We've gotten over 100 responses. Thank you so much. Asking about, I'm thinking about redoing the Hormone Balance Mastermind, and actually we decided to launch it. So applications are now open. That's the big announcement. But I wanted to know what your biggest hormone question was, because I want to make sure that I cover that in this course that really helps women to balance their hormones. So what is, and give me a shout out. I see some eyeballs. I want to know who's here. What is your biggest hormone question? And so the big announcement is that applications are now open for the Hormone Balance Mastermind that is starting this July. Hey, Martha, how are you? And if you think that balancing your hormones is something that you'd like to do so that you can start off the fall feeling, hey, Jody, feeling better about yourself, feeling good in your own skin, like sleeping better, maybe having a better sex drive, maybe your hair could regrow a little more, think about any symptoms that you're having at midlife, and I promise you that your hormones are a part of that. So getting them balanced really could improve your symptoms. But more than that, it's about, how do you want to live your life? When you don't feel good in your own skin, what happens? You don't show up as the best partner for, maybe if you're in a romantic relationship, you don't show up as best for your kids, if you have kids, for your coworkers, for your boss, or for your employees, depending on your work situation. You just don't show up in life the way that you really are, because you feel like a glass that's half empty instead of an almost full glass that gives from the overflow. So if balancing your hormones is something that could help you with your sleep, your weight, your sex drive, whatever, and you might like to do the Hormone Balance Mastermind, definitely go to www.midlifemetabolisminstitute, all spelled out.com, and fill out the application. And let's see if it's a good fit for you. There are details about the program there. So let's get started with today's question. So I said yesterday we would talk about, hey, Diane, that we would talk about cortisol. We talked about thyroid yesterday, which is one of your main metabolic drivers. We talked about the key tests that you need to have and why so many of us go to our doctors and we're told we don't have a thyroid problem, even though we clearly have a problem. Hey, Anne, I shared my story. That was really a part of my story. As a board certified OBGYN and weighing 243 pounds, I was like, I know I have a thyroid problem, right? Constipation, overweight, tired, hair loss, thyroid problem, plus cold all the time. My feet and hands were freezing, even in the middle of summer when it was like 95 degrees outside. Can you relate? Your partner says, oh my God, your feet are like ice cubes under the covers. So these are all classic symptoms of thyroid. And I was convinced I had a thyroid problem, but the test said, no, I didn't. How many of you have been told by your doctor, even though you have all the symptoms, you check all the boxes, you do every quiz on every website you go to, you have low thyroid symptoms, you go to your doctor and they do the blood work and they go, your thyroid's fine. Give me a shout out if that's you, right? Dana, I see Suze, Maribel, and Martha. Yes, right? This is what happens. And that's what's happening to me, right? I was my own doctor and I would say, I got to have a thyroid problem. And I would run the test and they'd all come back normal. And we talked what the difference between normal and optimal yesterday for thyroid. Well, today we got so many questions about adrenals, right? Cortisol, adrenal fatigue. Why doesn't my doctor check this? How do I know if I have a problem? I think I might be perimenopausal, but I read about cortisol problems and salivary cortisol. Like, how do I know if I have adrenal fatigue? Maybe it's not perimenopause. Maybe it's adrenal fatigue. How do I know? How many of you have this question? So many of you asked that on the one question survey. So let's get into it. So cortisol, I call her Queen Cortisol. All hail the queen. You've got hundreds of hormones, 7 main metabolic driver hormones that determine your weight, your activity level, your immune system function, whether you get sick or not, whether you get cancer or not. But all hormones are not created equal. So what do I mean by that? Everyone, all women at midlife, and if this is you, let me know. Most of us think it's our sex hormones. That's just what we blame it on because we're at that certain age. Even our doctors train us to do this. Well, it's normal for your age to not have a sex drive. No, it's not. Okay. So we think that it's all about our sex hormones. And that's because there are these other hormones that mainstream medicine really totally ignores. Like, at least your OBGYN knows your sex hormones are a thing and they need to kind of pay attention. They might not check them because they don't know how, or they check them and they don't know how to read them and they tell you they're fine. Okay. But when it comes to cortisol, they totally miss the boat. I heard this story once that when Columbus first sailed to the Americas, that when the native peoples in the land saw the big ships coming, they didn't even have a word for it because they had never seen anything like that in their world. So they didn't have a word for ship and they didn't know what was happening. So they didn't even know to be afraid or prepared or happy or whatever. They didn't know how to react because it wasn't a thing for them. Well, that's kind of like cortisol for mainstream medicine. I mean, sure, we doctors learned about this when we were in medical school, right? But we were taught that this is the hormone that you only need to check if someone's in the ICU and you think that they're acutely ill and it's life-threatening and they could have Addison's or Cushing's. Those are the two problems, meaning they have the top or bottom 2.5% of values. They're seriously ill. Other than that, you don't need to worry about it. And that is so wrong, right? It is so wrong. So cortisol determines your sleep-wake cycle, your energy, your weight. Hear me, ladies. 60% of us are overweight or obese at midlife. Do we have a cortisol problem? Yes, we have a cortisol problem. But if you talk to your regular doctor about this, they're not going to know what you're talking about because it's not a thing. They don't see the ships on the horizon. They have no vocabulary for it. But NASA knows about it. NASA knows to check salivary cortisol on their astronauts since the inception of the space program. Hopefully, Sue says, one in my family was borderline Addison's and her cortisol and DHEA. And I'm sorry to hear that. And, I'm glad that she got that checked. So, right, dangerously low. Well, when I got my cortisol finally checked and I learned about checking it in saliva, you get little tubes and you spit in them and you do it morning, noon, afternoon, midnight, and you get your nice little curve and you compare it to what's optimal. Oh, I'm so glad she's better. Then you know what's going on with your cortisol. And then you're like, oh my God, I got this window into this thing that they told me was normal for my age. Now I know why I'm tired and I want to go take a nap every afternoon. Now I know why I can't fall asleep at night. When I lay my head down, I'm wide awake. Now I know why I wake up at 1 o'clock in the morning every night. Now I know why I can't lose that last 30 pounds. Now I know just about everything I need to know. So all hormones are not created equal. Sex hormones are a thing, but when it comes down to it, if someone came and took all your sex hormones today, you would survive. You might want to die because you would feel awful. That will make you feel awful, but you would survive. If someone came and took all your cortisol today, you would die immediately. Just like if someone came and took all the glucose or sugar in your body, you would die immediately. You have to have these things to live. They are about survival. So a lot of women think it's perimenopause. They're not sure, but sometimes it's not. It's a cortisol problem. And yes, it could be adrenal fatigue. Like Suze is saying that she had a family member who was tanked dangerously low. So I didn't think I had Addison's or Cushing's because I was walking around working and talking. But I didn't realize that there was this whole world of dysfunction with cortisol between Addison's and Cushing's, that you could have dysfunction that would make your life miserable, but you wouldn't end up in the ICU. So no doctor would ever check it. And when I finally did my cortisol, I was like a flat line, right at the bottom of the graph, meaning I had enough cortisol that I didn't have Addison's because that's at the bottom. I had enough to live. I had enough to survive, but I didn't have enough to thrive. I didn't have enough to feel good. And this is true for so many of you. Like in the women who already went through the Hormone Mastermind last time or who going through it now, you would not believe how many women came back. I'd say it's a third of the women in the program came back with that flatline low level of adrenal fatigue. And they were wondering, like, what's wrong with me? Why doesn't my doctor figure out what's wrong with me? They're looking all over Dr. Google, trying to figure out, watching this podcast, going there, reading this, right? Reading that book. And then they finally, like, the relief. How relieved would you feel? Because right now, you're usually in the 40s and 50s is like women are like, oh my gosh, what is going on? What is wrong with me? And our doctors just don't give us the answers. Not because they don't care. They're wonderful people. They're just not taught in that, right? So they tell you, oh, it's normal for your age, or you just need a sleeping pill or whatever. I'm sorry, it is not normal to not sleep all night. It is not normal to say, I never care if I have sex again. It is not normal to lose your hair. These are not normal things. It's not normal to be overweight. It's normal in our society because most people have it, but we have come to equate normal, meaning everyone has it, with it's okay. It is not okay to not feel fabulous in your skin, to not feel sexy, confident, vivacious, and have that health to support you. I'm getting on my box. So adrenal cortex, Sue says, can get sluggish. Yes, it can. So Jody says, I got my Dutch test back and have very low, she's 43 cortisol. So I got checked for Addison's, which I don't have, right? Most people don't, but was not directed as to what to do for it. Yeah, so this is the thing. You can go on the Dutch website and buy a Dutch test yourself. The problem isn't that, access to a Dutch test. The problem is that you don't have anyone to guide you through, okay, now what? What do I do about this? As your evidence. So your doctor doesn't know what to do with it. So they're like, oh my God, she might have Addison's, because that's our mentality, because that's what we're taught. Addison's, right? That's all we know. But then we don't know what to tell you to do about it as regular doctors. So that's why I created the Mastermind, because I had women all over the place, like not knowing what to do. And so we're not lacking in information or resources. We are lacking in wisdom. So I created it for women to be able to come and get the education so you can do this for yourself, not to give you a fish, but teach you how to fish so you can fish for yourself. So that's what we do. And actually, I had a bunch of women join both times who had the Dutch test, but they were in your position, Jody. They're like, I don't know what to do with this. So they joined the Mastermind and they already had the Dutch test, and then they learned what to do about it. So that's why I created it. So Jody had horrible anxiety, so she thought her cortisol was high, right? So progesterone deficiency can give you horrible anxiety, cortisol imbalances, thyroid abnormalities can give you horrible anxiety. So anxiety is one of these multifactorial things. So I'm glad you figured out what it was for you. It's usually not one thing. It's usually a combination of things. So it's like a storm. And you've got to address all the pieces of the storm. Like I say, these hormones are like a symphony and they work together. And when they play together nicely and they're all tuned up properly, it's a beautiful music and you feel wonderful. But when any one instrument is off, have you ever been at the symphony and one instrument is off, right? And you're like, oh, that sounds terrible, right? But with hormones, it's never usually just one, it's usually multiple. And for us women at midlife, that's particularly true because we have that programmed obsolescence of our ovaries. So that's happening. But then most of us have had these imbalances accruing with our cortisol because we're not taught how to address it, how to soothe it, how to work with it, how to balance it. A lot of us have undiagnosed insulin imbalances, thyroid imbalances. So all of these things are like what I call the perfect storm. So at some point, the majority of women in America, some point in their 40s or 50s, they're going to go, oh my God, I'm going to lose my mind. What is wrong with me? And they feel like, I'm just going to say it, a shit show. Like my health is a shit show. I don't know what to do. And unfortunately, we doctors are not much help. We're going to give you birth control pills, sleeping pills, antidepressants. And the truth is, you're not depressed. There's a reason you have a hormone imbalance, why you have all these things. And so you get them all balanced and it's amazing. So yeah, I see Suze has lots of information here. Low Cortef, low 4NF diet, need a whole 360 change. I see celiac, wheat zoomer. Yes, celiac is oftentimes very underdiagnosed. She had POTS, right? So postural blood pressure issues. So this can be very far-reaching and can really interfere with your life. And most of us doctors, unfortunately, are just not trained in it. So that's why I created the Mastermind. And if you think that could help you and you'd like help managing, what do I do now with my Dutch test? How do I fix my cortisol? How do I feel as fabulous at 40, 50, 60 and beyond as I did at 20 or 16 or 24 or whatever age? Because the truth is that should be what's normal. There is no reason that you can't feel and look as good at 40, 50, 60 and beyond as you did at 20. So I had this picture up of J-Lo. I love J-Lo. And she's in her 50s, and that Super Bowl show with her and Shakira was like amazing. If you saw it, right? Let me know, right? Was it amazing? And in her 40s, Shakira, and J-Lo in her 50s. So, and then I saw a picture recently of the Golden Girls, right? So remember back in the day, that was the show, and that was one of my favorite shows. Who was your favorite character on the Golden Girls? I loved them all. So I would be hard pressed to pick one, but Blanche was a hoot. So anyway, if you look at them and you look at J-Lo, they were in their 50s, and you look at J-Lo now, right? It's just amazing what you're able to do with hormones. I promise you, she has gotten her hormones balanced the right way. She has had the right tests done and read them the right way. She hasn't had your regular tests that regular doctors do and be told you're normal and you're fine. And here's a birth control pill and a sleeping pill, or, horse estrogen or Prempro or Estratest or any of these estrogen testosterone shots. Someone says, I love Sophia. She was my favorite on Golden Girls, right? Sophia, she was a character. And what was so amazing is she was as young as the other women. So in real life, so they had to make her look older. So I promise you, J-Lo has her hormones naturally balanced. So if you want to look that good, in your 50s, that's what you need to do, right? That's what's required, is to do the real deal, get biologically identical. We went into, I think it was 2 days ago, someone had that question. A lot of people had that question. Well, what's the difference between regular hormones and bioidentical? And so we went deep into that. So check out that live. And we talked about the difference. So biologically identical or bioidentical or so-called natural hormones are exactly like what God gave you, you were born with, right? And that's what your levels are so robust in your 20s, right? And that's why you feel so good. And then you start declining around 35, 40, and you start with these imbalances, and then you've got cortisol imbalances and all these problems, these imbalances that no one's addressing, no one's teaching you how to address. So we're really hormonally illiterate in our country, unfortunately. And so you have all these problems accruing. If you feel like you're hormonally literate, let me know. Give me a shout out, right? So I see Lady Kate, I see Alice, I see a whole bunch of people here. Thank you guys for joining me, by the way. But if your doctor's not talking to you about these things and you're not being educated about this at your doctors or in school, then it's like a state of hormonal illiteracy. And we have a state of hormonal impoverishment when we hit midlife, and nobody is addressing it. And it's an epidemic. And I know that everybody acts like it's okay. And, oh, let's medicate ourselves with chocolate and wine. It's okay. We're just on the downhill. We're over the hill. Wrong. I am not going out like that, and I don't want you to go out like that. So a friend of mine who's a colleague who does work with women also at midlife told me she went to see Menopause the Musical. How many of you guys have seen that? She told me this during the pandemic, so I couldn't go see it because they were on a break. So in any case, she said, Kieran, you got to see it. It's so sad. You walk in, she says, the first thing is they hand out fans. So it's about menopause, right? So they hand out fans as if you're supposed to be hot and hot flashing. She said, and then every song and musical number is making fun of some symptom of midlife and menopause. Hot flashes, no sex drive, hair loss, weight gain. She said, all the numbers are making fun, and all the women, they're all middle-aged women in the audience, just laughing hysterically. And she said, Kieran, I looked around, and she said, tears just started streaming down my face because they feel like they have no choice but to make fun of themselves and laugh at themselves and medicate themselves with wine and chocolate. That this is their fate in life, this is their lot in life, and that this is just what they have to accept. And they just don't know, Kieran. And she was crying. And as she was telling me this, I started crying. And I was like, it's just a travesty of what we believe at midlife for us ladies is all that we get. Like, oh, it's over. You don't get a sex drive. You don't get to look good, feel good. You don't get vitality. You don't get energy. You don't get to sleep. Like, you don't get to be a human is basically what we accept. And I was like this, and I know so many women like this. And then what do? We medicate ourselves with coffee in the morning to get up and get some energy. And then with wine at night. Those are our daily bookends. Coffee in the morning, wine at night. Well, if I can't have natural vitality and vivacity, then I'm just going to medicate myself through life. So anyway, that was what prompted me, that conversation, to do the Stop the Menopause Madness Summit. I'm like, this is terrible. We need to stop this. We said, we need to stop this madness. We need to stop the menopause madness. So that's why we did the summit, which is still available at stopthemenopausemadnesssummit.com if you're interested. But more than that, we will be running the Hormone Balance Mastermind. starting again in July. And if you think that could help you to get your hormones balanced, everything starts with hormones. We talked a few days ago about how these hormones they're the communicators in your body. And what's the most important thing in any system is communication, right? In the third grade classroom, when the teacher's out and left no lesson plan for the substitute teacher, what happens? Chaos, right? Kids are running around playing tag and throwing spitballs. Chaos, because there's been no communication. Well, in your body, your hormones are the communicators that tell all your cells what to do. When they are out of balance and offline, there's no communication. So all your cells are like, we don't know what to do, so we just do our own thing. And this is what wreaks havoc. So getting the communication back, getting your hormones balanced is where it starts. But no woman should feel like they're a basket case. Absolutely, Suze. You are so right. So thank you guys for joining me. It's been my pleasure to be with you. I'll still be coming live at 1 o'clock and answering your questions. So if you didn't get to submit a question, you can go to, it's https://bit.ly/one-hormone, ONEHORMONE. But better yet, go to midlifemetabolisminstitute.com and find out more about the Mastermind and see if that can help you. Thank you guys for joining me. Have a wonderful, wonderful rest of your day. Many blessings.